Agenda 21 is something that a lot of people are beginning to realize that this is a bit of a threat to their property rights and their personal freedom and so forth. Now, I know its genesis came out of Rio, came out of the Rio de Janeiro conference in 1992. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, there were several documents that came out of the Earth Summit in 1992. One of them was the Biodiversity Treaty, and Agenda 21 was the other. Those were the two main ones. There were some on forestry and so forth. But basically, what all of these documents were designed to do was set, as they say, an agenda to literally transform human society. And you know, as you read their documents, you will see that they are opposed to national sovereignty, nation states that have their own laws and their own way of doing things. They are opposed to free enterprise and you know, private corporations, private companies doing things. All of these programs that are put together through Agenda 21 are the exact opposite of what we set up for the United States and what the world has been over all these years, to where they're literally moving towards, of course, UN global governance. And the UN, you know, of course, looks at the world as its global commons, and that it should have jurisdiction over everything: the air, the water, the earth, and even space, that they believe is theirs for jurisdiction. And if you look at Agenda 21 and what it eventually leads to, it is exactly that. You know, Jack, we hear all the time from our critics that, well, the United Nations there are no blue-helmeted soldiers at City Hall, and it doesn't have any enforcement capability, so this is all voluntary, and it's not something that we need to worry about. But the truth of the matter is, the stormtroopers for this are those NGOs. They helped write this agenda in the first place. And then they get these world leaders. There were 172 in Rio, including George H.W. Bush, who signed the document. And what are they doing when they sign the document? They're saying, okay, we agree to this. Then those NGO stormtroopers come in to the United States. George Bush has signed it, said, okay, we're going to do this. They come into the U.S. bureaucracy, to the Congress, to the people who write legislation, and they direct them. They begin to give them wording and help them hone grant programs and so forth. And then once they've got that established, they move into the state legislatures. The same NGO groups who helped write it at the international level, helped write it at the federal level, now in the state level.
Even at the local level now, you get down to county government, city government, towns, and so forth. These people who accept this grant money, they don't know that it has as its goal implementation of an overall United Nations program.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Monday, March 19th, 2012, and I'm Darko. My website is ggnonline.com, and ddarko2012 is my YouTube channel. Alright, so you just saw a little bit of a video from the John Birch Society there, and I had an older video of this individual, but then I don't know, it just disappeared while I had all my tabs up. But either way, yeah, this was posted on March 19, 2012, so it's actually more relative, and they're talking about Rio, Agenda 21, but really what just happened, this Executive Order National Defense Resources Preparedness Act, and it says here that the purpose of this delegates authorities and addresses national defense resource policies and programs under the Defense Production Act of 1950 as amended the Act. So there's plenty of alternative news that are out there covering it, kind of like Coney. I mean, that's why I didn't get too into it. It's pretty obvious. But I'll just read this one paragraph and some other sources, and I'll include the links. You can go there and check them out. But it's like I said before, you know, in World War II, they did all this stuff anyways, right? They took control over the manufacturing. They took control over the farmers, told them what to do. Then you have Agenda 21 in the wings, which has already kind of de facto been installed, as you just saw right there in that first video, in the United States. So I think this right here is just to basically let the slaves know that this is what's coming, and to people that are quote truthers, conspiracy theorists, or alternative media, they're just going to jump on this and it's going to freak everybody out. You know what I mean? So I don't want to, that's why I don't want to do that. So anyways, it says here, United States must have an industrial and technological base capable of meeting national defense requirements and capable of contributing to the technological superiority of its national defense equipment in peacetime and in times of national emergency. The domestic, industrial, and technological base is the foundation for national defense preparedness. The authorities provided in the Act shall be used to strengthen this base and to ensure it's capable of responding to the national defense needs of the United States corporation, which is basically what they're talking about. The United States, the corporation, basically the Crown's Virginia company, and their little CEO at the helm, Mr. Barack Obama, is not even a citizen. So a lot of this stuff, it's all just lip service for you. And the 2 points that I would like to make about this is, one, is that the state already owns your property, right? They own your car and they own your land. Unless you have a allodial title, like I've mentioned before, you don't actually own it. They do. If you have a register, if you register it, or if you have a certificate of title, you don't actually own it. So with that being said, they could already go in there in your house. That's why they can go in there. They can just take whatever they want because it's their property. And if you have a birth certificate and you're property of the state, they'll just come in and take all of your possessions, including you and your land, and they could already do that. So I think what this is doing is this is building up for what I think is, I've been wondering what was going to be coming down, as far as the shit hitting the fan. Is it going to be Israel striking Iran? Blah, blah, blah. They got all this stuff and all these smoke and mirrors, but the one thing that we're not being told of is a possible polar shift. I've mentioned this maybe very few times and once recently, but this is what I think it's going to happen. I think that there is going to be a polar shift, and it's going to be pretty abrupt. It's not going to end the planet. There are going to be a lot of people who are going to die, and these bastards know about it, and they're preparing. Like in Norway, where they have little seed vaults, they're preparing for this. The only one that doesn't know are the American sheeple, and they're being told, we got to restore the republic, we got to get arms and stuff like that. I'm not trying to offend you if you're a patriot or anything. I'm just saying that you have to see that this is a long-term plan here. They already know that there's going to be this impending doom. And it has nothing to do with terrorism. It's about continuity of government. So when this polar shift happens and water just cascades over certain areas, and Obama goes to West Virginia and goes in into the mountains and underground bunkers, and in Denver possibly they'll have their underground facilities, and they're going to have all the infrastructure set up, and that's why it's all around globally. They're all blacked out police, militarized. All these things about emergency preparedness, national emergencies, National Emergency Centers Act, i.e. FEMA camps. This is all for when it happens, that all of the progress that the dominant minority or the technocrats or the global elites, all the work and progress that they've made technologically as far as enslaving people and figuring out how to enslave them even more, all of that progress is going to be kept with them, so that when the dust settles, literally, they're going to be able to have all their stuff ready, set to go. So all this stuff about, this allows people to get, drafted. Well, they could already do that anyway. So you can go in there and check out all the different sources here that I'll post here. But look at Texas mayor officially cancels Agenda 21 membership. Why? Because they don't need to, right? It'll probably look good for election time. But it's going on in Tennessee, I believe, too. Texas and Tennessee, where they're, withdrawing Agenda 21 membership. And then I came across this news from the Daily Bail. And on this source, proposed UN environmental constitution for the world would establish an incredibly repressive system of global governance. So I've reported before on about the green helmets, the UN green helmets, and then having an environmental court, right, a green court. But it is intended to supersede all existing national laws. And then it goes on and it says that it's intended to become a permanent binding treaty. You can go in there and check it out right there. There's a link. And I'll post the links for this. Essentially, what this proposed environmental covenant does is takes the sustainable development principles underlying Agenda 21 and turns them into global constitutional law. All parties to this new constitution would be forced to turn their nations into centrally planned societies where all decisions about everything are evaluated within the framework of the sustainable development. So I've covered this as well, the smart cities and that. you know, Babylon, the big mega cities and stuff like that. And those people, after this, whatever this this big event that takes place in the next year to 5 years, when the dust does settle, there's going to be people out there that are not going to want to come to these smart cities. That they're going to be you know, outcasts, outsiders, and they show that in the video. One of the possible outcomes is that there will be people out there protesting against what's going on, and they're not actually part of these smart cities. And if you're not in that grid, if you're not on it, then you know, you can't get their GMO foods. But I don't know why you'd want it anyways. So they actually updated the edition. It says here, quote, special care was taken to update it with respect to social and economic pillars, and thereby avoid falling into the trap of concentrating solely on the environmental pillar. And it goes on, and it says here in the preamble, we are told that the global partnership is necessary in order to achieve sustainable development, right here. And it says Article 3, the global environment is a common concern of humanity, and under the protection of the principles of international law, the dictates of public, conscious, and fundamental values of humanity. Who determines those values? Well, not you, not me. It says Article 20 says this treaty will be required to mitigate the adverse effects of climate change. That means if this treaty is ratified in the U.S., the national debate about climate change will be over, and our national, state, and local government institutions will be required to actively fight man-made global warming, whether it exists or not. Remember, that could actually talk about geoengineering and the chemtrails that they're already doing. The spraying of aerosols. You can check this out. Schwarzenegger's horrible UN-backed Sustainia project. It says time for a new breed of action heroes, including Governor Schwarzenegger, said he'll serve as the honorary chair for the Sustainia Award alongside EU Commissioner, IPPC chairman, who basically lies about stuff, then former Prime Minister of Norway. And it goes on and tells you about the new initiative to develop the world's first realistic model of a sustainable world in 2020. So you can go in there and check it out, but it's basically another eugenics program, population control program in the name of what? Saving the planet and helping people around the world. So like that one application for smartphones, you know, Eco Snoop, you can snoop on your neighbor, you know, for using too much water. Man's home invaded by government search of fish tanks. It says here, British Columbia resident targeted by inspectors looking for a marijuana grow op. So the owner, 67, said he felt violated when local enforcement agencies knocked on his door while looking for a marijuana grower operation, and then forced him to pay for an electrical inspection and upgrade his fish tank operation. So even though he didn't, you know, he didn't do anything, while they're, oh, while we're here, you know, we'll slap you with this. And there's plenty of psychopathic douchebags out there coming out of college, ready to just, you know, to carry the banner, right, of this green movement. And there's nothing wrong with trying to be, you know, use alternative sources of power and recycle and stuff like that, but this has nothing to do with that at all. GMO protesters shut down California Monsanto office, and it goes on and says that dozens of protesters disrupted the Monsanto's California office in Davis and an area close to Sacramento. Braving the rain, the dozens of protesters, not thousands, were successful in shutting down the entire office for the day. So you remember this article that I covered before, GM debate in Europe based on emotions, not evidence. So these people were too emotional and not logical. Then we have denying chemtrails is dangerous for your health. And it's a pretty good argument they're making in this article. It's basically talking about how asthma has risen considerably over the past 2 decades, and nobody actually asked about chemtrails, right? Morgellons, they never asked about aerosols. Scientists and governments have allowed some limited hangouts, partial disclosures on chemtrails or stratospheric geoengineering, framing it experimental, see, as if they're not doing it. They openly discuss geoengineering as a potential solution for weather control and protection against global warming. So yeah, as far as the aerosols go, I'm actually wondering if that has to do with something with the polar shift too when this all happens. Are they actually harping or using scalar weapons? Are they actually trying to prevent this pole shift from happening? Or are they trying to make it worse? I wanted to show this video, but I don't want my video to get pulled, so go in there and check it out. Telstra insider drives tank through cell towers and protests, exposes dangers of electromagnetic frequencies. So the only other thing that can tick me off more than the aerosols, because I can't do much about it, I don't have a plane to shoot it out of the sky, is what? Are these ground towers, these cell and Wi-Fi towers? Check out the video with Barry Trower on ELF. Yale researchers link cell phones used during pregnancy to behavioral problems, and that's what he talked about, saying that excites the brain. That in Africa, where they didn't have these towers, when they put them up, 100% increase in ADHD. The new study, radiation treatments create cancer cells 30 times more potent than regular cancer cells. This is GGN. Thank you.